Spurs winning away from home. Mark Donaldson alongside Janusz Michallik. And I was just wondering, Janusz, I was like, Spurs have been all right on their travels this season. So I checked the form guide. They are top of the form guide for away performances. They lead Arsenal with exactly the same record, but a better goal difference, having scored more goals. What about this game today against Palace? We only got one goal. We could have had a lot more for both sides. What did you make of it?
The war in attrition. That's what it was, really, for the longest time. Yeah, Spurs are good away from home. Unfortunately, not in front of their own supporters, right? The pressure is something that they can't deal with it. But on surface, let's be honest here, right? Before we criticize or dissect Tottenham, but you got to congratulate him on 3 points and a clean sheet, because both were badly needed for them.
Archie Gray getting his first goal for Spurs. They could have been ahead before that. There were 2 disallowed goals from Richarlison today. The first one was a lot clearer than the second one, which was very tight. What did you make of Spurs as an attacking force today and keeping a clean sheet? What did you make of them defensively?
Well, look, I mean, yes, tight calls, I suppose. But if you Spurs and you want to be talked as a big club, I mean, that first half, I mean, total domination really for Crystal Palace, right? I mean, it was like 8-1 in shots, and if the Spurs fans want Spurs to play a little bit more expensive, this wasn't an example of that by any means. Not that Crystal Palace had great chances really in that first half in particular, but they had half chances. They held possession. They looked the better side. And if you compare those two sides, what Spurs do in terms of buying, changing managers and wanting to be at the top, and you look at Crystal Palace, well, let's compare that, right? I mean, here's Crystal Palace winning the FA Cup and Community Shield. Yes, Spurs won the Europa League, but you wouldn't know it, right? I mean, it looked to me that Palace were the better team. And this is a Palace team, mind you, that year in and year out loses their best players, whereas Spurs buy players, right? You look at Crystal Palace, and if you just think of Zaha, Michael Olise, and Eze just recently, and Gehi probably on his way out as well, and who knows, maybe even Mateta. I wasn't impressed by any means. Palace were the better team.
Mm-hmm. However, if you can't defend set pieces, then you're in trouble. That's 6 games now. In each of the last 6 Premier League games, Crystal Palace have conceded goals from set pieces. Is that just a coincidence, or does it go deeper than that?
Well, we've talked about it, right? The individual battles, right? The delivery and all of that. We've seen, Arsenal do great things. We've seen other teams defend well or attack well. I think what's going to drive Oliver Glasner crazy on this one in particular is that on a corner, they've lost 3 headers. I mean, that's absolutely criminal. So whereas normally if a delivery comes in, it's a great header, you can go to a one player or maybe, the zone or however you play it and, and explain to yourself, okay, it happens. Sometimes it does, right? But here, Cole Muani on the far post gets a header, then Richarlison gets a header, and then Archie Gray gets a header right in front of the goal. So, I mean, that is what's troublesome with this particular set piece. So, yeah, confidence when it comes to that is probably at all-time low for Crystal Palace.
What do you make of the way Palace have been this season? Because they're pretty close to 5th. They're also pretty close to 15th. They're in that kind of area along with Spurs, whereby 2 or 3 wins together and you shoot up the table, 2 or 3 defeats and you get caught up pretty quickly. In the Conference League, they've not managed to make the top 8. They've won 3 of their 6 games, but most of their performances have come with players that aren't really first choice for the Premier League. So I don't know if we can use that as an excuse. You said yesterday you don't know what to make of Chelsea. I don't know what to make of Crystal Palace.
I know what to make of them. I admire them. I mean, given the players that they were missing, right? I mean, Spurs were missing players too, but, if you look at Ismail Azar and Chris Richards, Munoz, very important players, Dakura. Look, I've said it. It's a difficult season. First and foremost, you have a situation with Oliver Glasner. Will he stay or will he go? He will likely go because, I mean, there's not much more that he can achieve with this team, given the structure of the club. If you Glasner, and you just said it, they won the FA Cup, they won the Community Shield, right? They are in European football. How do you better that? It's impossible, knowing that, as I've said, not only did you lose players, but you most likely going to lose two of your key players at the very least. You look at Gehi, and there's so much talk about Wharton that I'm sure he's probably going to go as well. And yet, once again, Crystal Palace are likely not going to buy the players to build on the success that they've had. So they've had a pretty good season so far, you have to say. I mean, it's a difficult place to go to. It's difficult to play against them in general. They're on a skid. I think that's 5 matches without a win in all competitions right now. But the situation with Glasner, the unsettled, I don't know if it's unsettled, but, Gehi situation and all of that, I think they're doing fine. I mean, any other club, a big club, would be talking, oh my goodness, what's going on here? But this Crystal Palace, they're doing it tremendously well in the last couple of seasons. I still think they'll bounce for the rest of the season, and they'll do what they do most, stay somewhere in the middle, or maybe even talk about Europe. Look, half the Premier League makes European football these days.
You and I were speaking about Chelsea against Villa yesterday, and it was a game of two halves. But given what you said about the way Crystal Palace were in the first half in this game, and how they had so many more opportunities, the second half was pretty much more of the same. Spurs trying to hit on the counter. I thought Spurs defended very well in the second half, but Devaney especially has a chance on the turn that he fires over. A little bit more composure was required there. As far as Spurs are concerned, a win at a tough place to go, continues their away form, gets their 5th of the season. What impressed you most about how they got that win today?
I mean,
I'm doing my best, Janusz. I'm doing my
best. Look, I mean, if you just watch the last 5 to 10 minutes of the game, right, or ever since Odegaard came on the pitch, you'd say, well, that's pretty good, right? But obviously, Crystal Palace are chasing the result a little bit. They had to open themselves up. Odegaard with his pace. And, let's face it. I mean, Michallik is in a decent form right now. I mean, that looked good towards the end. But I think, look, how do I say this nicely? It's difficult. I mean, Spurs are unwatchable. I mean, that's the problem. For the size of the club and their ambition, they're I don't know what type of football they play. And again, I've mentioned Crystal Palace missing players. Spurs are missing significant players, but that's been a case for the last 2 or 3 seasons. They always miss players. I don't want to say everybody else does. It happens, but it seems more with them than anybody else. Just mentioned the suspension of Romero and Xavi Simons. That alone from last game, but there's nothing that impresses me. I mean, look, Thomas Frank, give him time. I think he came here to give Spurs that defensive culture, defensive stability. I don't necessarily think that we've seen that just yet. That's why the clean sheet is important today for him. But I think if I look at the players, are any of them getting better? It's not just down to Thomas Frank, but I mean, are they? Look, Kudus have yet to get going, right? Richarlison, okay, a little bit better, but still stagnant for years now, in my opinion. I mean, he's not getting much better. Kolomwani just got there. Okay, maybe he needs time. Romero, the captain, but a liability as well. How many games has he missed due to injury and all kinds of different suspensions, right? Xavi Simons, disappointing. Maybe he needs time. Maybe. Their best player hasn't even kicked the ball. That's Kulusevski, and Madison, you can add to that as well, hasn't kicked the ball as well. And somebody like Bentancur, Mark, you and I go with him way back in different leagues, right? I mean, he forgot how to play football. I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know what's happening to him. I thought of him as a very, very good central midfielder. I haven't seen it. So here we are with Spurs. I mean, and today's game was pretty much that. I mean, this is a big, big club, right? That has aspirations. I mean, up until the last 10 minutes of the game, you would have thought that, this is a club that fights relegation year in and year out.
If that's you being nice, I wouldn't like to hear.
Well, I mean, you know me, I don't like to do that. I wish Spurs, again, it's a massive club. I'm always for these big clubs because it makes the Premier League more interesting. The more teams we have fighting for the Premier League title or for, Premier League spots, the better. But I mean, if you look at Spurs, a big move today for them, I believe up to 11th, right?
Yep.
still, halfway through the season, but I mean, haven't seen what I've seen this season, even with some of the players coming back, right? There's no chance they're going to finish top four. I just don't see how.
Underachievers.
Well, I mean,
that's pretty much what you've just said. They've won today, and you're still going in with a 2-footed tackle. And I understand the honesty, but are they underachieving?
Well, I just don't remember last time I've seen a good, complete 90-minute game from Spurs, right? And I mean, there's a lot to be said, about probably I haven't even talked about mentality of the players, but maybe you just said it best without really saying it. Look how they play away from home. Look what they do at home. How disappointing, right? The beautiful stadium, defense, they're expecting more expensive football, a better football that, this is like second, third, or fourth manager that's trying to achieve that, right? And at home, they're very, very poor. So they can't deal with that pressure either.
18 games, 25 points, 11th in the table, as you mentioned. Last year, after 18 games, they were 12th, not 11th. And they had 23 points, not 25. Let's compare and contrast. Where are Spurs now compared to where they were exactly 12 months ago under Ange Postecoglou?
In exactly same place. They haven't moved. Even the table, right? I mean, one place, couple points here and there. With all the changes again, yet another manager, yet more expensive players, the Xavi Simons and all that. And a totally different style of play. Right, because from Ange going, attacking football, which fans wanted to. There wasn't defensive balance. Now they went to Thomas Frank, who's really a little bit more pragmatic, right? And he's not going to change. They knew that ahead of time. They hired him, so no complaints there, at least on their part. I'm talking about decision makers. As I said, at the very least, you would have thought that Spurs are going to be more defensively sound. I don't necessarily think that I've seen that, right? When you talk about general some of these games. So I think that, Spurs are exactly where we have been, and this is another year. I think there should be more progress, don't you think?
Well, given what they've spent, given who they've added in, but where's the issue here? I mean, the owner's moved on. There's a new coach. There's new players, there's a new style of play, but they're exactly the same place where they were. So what's the biggest issue here? Is it recruitment? Is it a lack of a capable manager? Because Thomas Frank's a really good manager. Ange Postecoglou is a really good manager. Is it a mentality issue? What is it?
Well, I think it's mentality. I think most important thing is going to have to be stability now. Right? I mean, they have to figure out why so many players are injured all the time. I mean, I haven't looked at this, but it seems to me that, last season was the same. The list of injured players just unbelievable. And maybe even the year before that. Here we are once again, couple suspensions as I've mentioned, but and obviously some players on the international duty, but stability. That's why I think they, there's already been talk about Thomas Frank. Is he good enough? This, that, or the other. I think they need to stop that. They need to stay with him a little bit, allow him as much time as possible. They've gotten rid of that monkey, in terms of winning something because they won Europa League. So at least we don't have to talk about that. But right now, a dose of reality, right? That this is going to take some time. And it seems to me, at least always when I'm asked these questions, every question from you or from anybody else, Spurs, are they going to win something? They're a big club. No, they're a big club in name and size and in stadium, but when I look at the droughts, of Liverpool year, way back when, their biggest rival, Arsenal, look how long it's taken him, right? Since just forget Arsene Wenger, but since he left, even when Arteta took over, right? There were 2 or 3 or 4 years where they really, really had to work hard to get where they are right now. So I think recruitment is very, very important. It seems to a degree random, right? Now that we're getting a look at these players. But right now, just stability. So if there's a notion of letting Thomas Frank go, they should forget about that. Give him some time, because I think changing and chopping all this is just not going to work, right? I mean, we've had some great managers and many managers over the last few seasons, and that hasn't worked. So stability, first and foremost.
I was wondering where this would go today because Spurs get the win, and if any Spurs fans are tuning into this, they'll think, "Hold on a minute here, he's having a pot shot at Spurs. We've just won the game. We're looking bigger picture. Let's make that clear." And I understand the frustration because there's some teams that are much better than the sum of their parts, but there's other teams that don't get to that level, and they should be a lot better than they actually are. Champions League, it wouldn't surprise me if they did something in the Champions League. They're going to get through to the knockout stage there, maybe get through a couple of rounds. But as far as that performance today is concerned, a clean sheet, a couple of goals disallowed, Richarlison by VAR. Incidentally, there's only one player who's had 2 goals disallowed before by VAR in the Premier League. Do you know who that was?
No.
Richarlison.
Oh, okay.
Same player. So, again, it depends what colour your scarf is. It depends if your glass is half empty or half full. Spurs could easily have won that by 2, 3, or 4 goals, but they could just as easily have lost that game. They are a conundrum right now. So this is why we're kind of talking bigger picture here. We're taking this as a victory in isolation, but as Janusz is saying, this is an opportunity for Spurs just to try and regroup, rebuild, and status quo. But does status quo not get you where you were the last time? This is where I'm a bit confused about where Spurs go from here.
I just think that you need to see some sort of progress, right? I mean, the Europa League win, that should be big, right? I mean, get that off and let's build on that, right? We're looking at all this situation right now. I mean, they're still in the FA Cup. I think they have Villa. Good luck. Even if they get through that, I can't see Spurs winning the FA Cup, right? But I think in a game like this today, and yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, they've won, and we've mentioned that at the beginning. Congratulations. Win is a win. They've done, they know how to do that away. But in today's game against Crystal Palace, if you watch the first half and probably a little bit, 15, 20 minutes of second half, I mean, they're not in a game. This is a team that's just pragmatic, reactive, hoping for the best rather than carrying the game, right? Even when you score that goal against the run of play, the youngster scores, Archie Gray scores his first senior goal for Spurs. That's what, at the very least, you can ask a team like Spurs to control the game, to see out the game. And you could see that they did towards the end there. But as I've said, that didn't look good. So based on what I see, you see this 1-0 win, you take it. But, if you look in long term as we are, have you seen anything in this win that would make you believe that there's an identity, that there's an idea of how we're playing or how they're playing? I just don't see it. And by the way, we're not basing this on one game. You and I are doing this week in and week out. I feel like I'm repeating myself. We've had this conversation over and over. And that's the problem. Nothing's changing. Again, I'm sure Spurs fans are going to remind me very, very quickly, but I can't remember last time Spurs played well for 90 minutes. I just can't.
Well,
and if it happens, it hasn't happened that often, that's for sure.
Well, they had that excellent win at Manchester City, but that was earlier in the season. Look, they're only 4 points off a Champions League spot.
Sure.
2 of their next 3 games are away from home. They're joint top of the away form table in the Premier League. They've got Sunderland at home coming up. Give us 2 weeks. Janusz will be a lot happier come 2026 about Spurs' chances, and we'll be looking ahead to Spurs maybe trying to crack the top 4 in 2 weeks' time, won't we, Janusz?
Look, I'm all for it. You know me. Well, you know me. I mean, I have no agenda almost against anybody with the exception of maybe one team. Yeah, no, but I mean, no agenda whatsoever. Look, I respect Thomas Frank as we all did. We thought he did a tremendous job in Brentford, right? I'm not into that talk. Okay, that's Brentford. That's a bigger club. Can he deal with it? Give him a chance, right? He deserves a chance to go from a club like Brentford, to see if he can make it at this level. And I think he deserves time. So I'm actually hoping for him that he does that, because I particularly think that he's a good manager and a nice man as well. So I hope for it. But again, I just don't see the sign of progress. And that's the most important thing.